This week on the Droids, the Obi-Wan Kenobi series has decided to find a new writer. That show being potentially delayed. Ewan McGregor says everything's fine, nothing to get worked up about. We'll talk all about it. Project Luminous is on the horizon. Excited to hear and theorize about what could be coming next for Star Wars. And, of course, Adam Driver. He's in a closet recording audio, just like we are for the podcast. Ooh, all that and more this week on the Droids. Welcome back to the Droids You're Looking For, a Star Wars podcast. Alongside Ryan and Chris, I am Mike. Sadly, without Sam this time around. We'll get back to Sam's theories on all of James Bond shortly. Don't worry, he will be back on the pod. We're not kicking him off this time around. Guys, there's been continual news. Once again, we are not left waiting around. We could keep on talking about Clone Wars. We could talk about the upcoming season, more about the Rise of Skywalker. But development news continues to take over all of our timelines and our lives when it comes to Star Wars.
Well, but first and foremost, I need to say, Chris, tip of my cat for surviving the week and not.
Yeah.
Hey, way to go!
I'm
it
happy
would have been
to
very
be here.
incriminating.
Yeah, I was gonna say you guys really set that. Don't worry, I will splice that audio and put it in a different scenario, so I have that. So just be careful.
Exhibits A, B, and C of the prosecution.
Right. I just have a note that says, "I think you should listen to something," and then it's all right there.
You didn't take that solo flight that you intended?
No.
Yeah, Chris did say he was going base jumping this weekend.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, my squirrel suit has a hole in it, but it'll be fine.
Well, thankfully, Chris is here, alive. Again, we'll see if Sam makes it to next. Oh no, I can't go down this road again.
Oh yeah, no, we can't do that.
We can't do
Sam
this
is Batman. We just have to tell everybody Sam is Batman, and that's where he's at.
But I guess, again, I know we talk about this on the pod, but I'm surprised how much news that we have to get into. I think let's just jump right into it. Sure. Obi-Wan Kenobi series, they are trying to retool. Ewan McGregor was interviewed after all the news came out that they were changing the writer for the series, even though Kathleen Kennedy, when the series was announced at D23, said, all the scripts are done. They're great. We're happy with everything. I guess after the premiere of The Mandalorian, which they were also working on, they felt like the series was too similar to The Mandalorian. Those are the rumors that are out there. So they wanted to find someone new to write the series. Apparently, Deborah Chow is still attached to direct all the episodes. They could be cutting the episodes from 6 to 4. That's all rumors that are there. But I guess your initial reaction when you hear that, once again, there's a new Star Wars project that just isn't running smoothly. And I say that with the caveat of, we've said this on the pod, there's so many more opportunities to talk about development issues than there were, and so many more prominent places that it can be than, say, 25, 30 years ago. But it just seems like every single Star Wars project just goes through turmoil.
The thing of it is that, Ewan says that it's okay. They say they're just delaying production to get the scripts right. Which is great if they want to get it right. There's things, though, like it's being delayed. They're switching writers. They're getting from 6 to 4. That there's a little bit of a hint of like mom's on the roof and we can't get her down.
Right. There's a very similar story too with like the Rise of Skywalker reshoots, where like it just reshoots. This happens at any movie. It's fine. It's normal. And now there's like a secret film theory that has started. So I'm not like entirely surprised. I think they probably did have a set of scripts written, but they might have to course correct or change their direction now based on some of the events of the previous 2 series. And if it is similar, I mean, I'm sure there is probably going to be some crossover, especially if it takes place on Tatooine. I mean, half the Mandalorian takes place in desert planets. I'm actually appreciative if they try to make it a little bit different, but the 6 to
Who knows?
news.
Maybe they'll retcon it and make Rey a Kenobi within the
yeah,
Obi-Wan.
exactly. Yeah, you know what?
Oh,
I
you
wouldn't
didn't like
mind
that
it. Yeah.
one? Let's try this one.
Yeah, maybe they'll just take scenes from the proposed Trevorrow script and then put them in the Obi-Wan series. Hey, that's cool.
The name of the original writer was Hussein Amini, I believe, who wrote for Drive, which love Drive. I wonder if he just was sitting there and be like, "Oh man, they're using blurgs, but I had blurgs on my own."
Yeah,
college."
exactly. Yeah, just what are the odds of coming up with blurgs? It's very interesting that this, like you said, is it because we're looking at this stuff with such scrutiny? But is there a leak in the ship that is Star Wars? Like, are people like letting these rumors out? Is this some kind of weird like phenomena? Are they being overprotective? What's going on here? Why does every production have these like massive shifts?
You know which one didn't have a massive shift like this?
I do.
The Last Jedi.
That is true.
I still haven't gotten
Last
my...
Jedi just went through, told its story, did it right.
That's it. There's even a documentary about it where they're like, I don't know how we're going to make this. And then they make it.
It is a question of like, is it under more scrutiny in a bubble? In a bubble, this wouldn't seem like anything, and maybe it is nothing. But there are more productions that have had trouble since the acquisition than there are productions that have not had public trouble.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just one of those things where it's like, really, again? But, maybe it's just a sign of, like, they don't want to get too deep into it, and then maybe this is them learning from it, where they don't want to get deep into it and then have to change course. They're getting ahead of it.
Yeah,
and not having to stick to a release date or anything like that, where they're just like, listen, we'll delay it, it'll come out when it comes out.
Yeah. It could be a little bit of, like, Lucasfilm fan service, too. They do know that people follow closely, and... I mean, they could just give you these like little tidbits of news for transparency, so you kind of know what to anticipate. I doubt that, but it's worth a thought.
One thing we do know is we can't trust Ewan. Ewan lied for, what did he say, 4 years that he was attached to the project?
He's lied to us straight through his teeth.
I mean, he's a great actor.
Through his beautiful teeth on that perfect face.
I want to believe him. I want to believe that it's not a huge issue. And I'm not gonna. I do. My first reaction was, oh, good. Take more time and get it right, because you didn't get it right with the Rise of Skywalker when you rushed things. So I'd like you to take more time, and so that makes me happy. I just don't think we can really lean on too much of what he's saying.
Yeah, I mean, he's also probably being fed whatever the studio is telling him to say as well.
Yeah, it's not like he's going to be like, man, oh man, this is trouble.
Yeah. Well, this is a mess. Oh boy. I don't know. I'm anxious. So the Cassian Andor series is supposed to be slated for 2021, and then this will start filming in 2021. Is that the idea?
They said that they moved it from August to January, right?
Okay. So exactly what happened to The Rise of Skywalker.
So we're still a year away from them shooting it. We still have yet to hear about what's going on with Cassian Andor series.
Yeah.
I mean, and we have, how's this for segues? We have the Project Luminous stuff coming up. Mm-hmm. So it's, this Obi-Wan series could be, who knows? Who cares what's going on with it?
Yeah. I think they are in a position now where they need to tell us what's next, though. What can we have? Just for scheduling on the pod,
Sure, yeah.
Well, do we believe that Project Luminous is what they were alluding to when they said there'd be an announcement in January, now February? I thought there would be, we are locking in the 2022 film, which will be this, or we're not going to tell you what it is, but it'll be directed by so-and-so, and that would be the information we'd get.
I mean, what is it now? It's February 24th that they're making the announcement?
Yeah, and apparently during the sales call on February 4th, there might be some details as well about who's involved.
Well, luckily I'm a stakeholder.
I'm a stakeholder in
or
the
a
sense...
stockholder.
I'm a stakeholder, so I have a majority ownership
Oh, there you go.
of Disney.
I'm a stakeholder in the sense that I like to eat steak with my hands.
Ryan, I
That's
didn't
a
know that
freebie.
you.
And I'm very afraid of vampires, so I'm constantly holding stakes.
Exactly.
I didn't know that you married into the Lauren Powell Jobs family to become a majority stakeholder in Disney.
You know, Mike, I'm a survivor, and I do what I have to do.
Well, so what do we know about Project Luminous? I feel like that's pretty much it at the moment, right? It's the date in February. This could be a multi-platform, multimedia. Hey, everything crosses. The stories come from one platform to another. You need to take part in all of it to know what's going on. I mean, what's our initial reaction?
Well,
go for it.
Shadows of the Empire certainly, comes to mind. When it was the first kind of multimedia endeavor by Lucasfilm, obviously that was under different leadership, but it was a somewhat successful endeavor at a time that Star Wars was in a lull. I think we've talked about this off mic, but I think that it will be kind of what you said, intertwining stories, probably TV series, comic books, novels, movies, that maybe not even movies, but if there are movies involved, I think that it'll be the kind of thing where the series and the movie are like the main things you need to pay attention to, and then there's connective tissue in comic books and novels and whatnot.
Yeah, it seems like the people helming it right now are all involved in comic books. It seems like the names they've given us on the kind of like the sheets and the invite that's been going around have all been, so you have Charles Soule, who's the author of the Darth Vader comics, Justine Ireland, author of the middle grade novel Lando's Luck, Star Wars story, Claudia Gray, YA novel Star Wars Lost Stars, Cavan Scott, IDW's Star Wars Adventure comics, and then Daniel Jose Older, who does solo tie-in novel Star Wars The Last Shot. So those are the people that have been like announced as involved in it. So I don't know if that's like the story team as it is, or if that is hinting at what kind of the source medium's going to be. If it's going to be the next saga will be in comic form, like the final seasons of Buffy.
Or that's just the comics wing, and they don't want to give names for TV and film people yet for fear of spoiling it. I mean, that's a jump, though.
The presentation they gave a while back. This is news from April, but it says the Force is what gives a Jedi his power. It's an energy field created by all living things, followed by until, and then it shows the logo Project Luminous.
Interesting.
So that was kind of the tag that they gave.
Is this the thing that there were rumors about, like it being the Empire trying to artificially empower people with the Force? Wasn't there a rumor flying around about that?
Oh, interesting.
What do you mean that there was a storyline in the most recent film about that?
Well, I just heard that Project Luminous had something to do with like there being a synthetic aspect to the Force being introduced.
Ooh, which is why they want Baby Yoda to steal the Force and then give that to their...
Oh, wow. So this could be set in the future. This is interesting. Yeah, apparently there is a comic strip, and this is from a while back ago, where they're basically trying to harvest the Force out of someone.
Are we finally going to get the midichlorians? Is this
the gateway? Yeah, is this the gateway too?
Could you imagine if Project Luminous they did the comic book version of George's treatments? I'd love that.
I mean, that would be amazing.
That reminds me, one of the best things that I've seen someone's reaction to The Rise of Skywalker is treating it like another entry in a series that you loved in terms of comic books, and you just didn't enjoy this entry, and so it didn't change the rest of how you felt about the story. You just decided that this individual smaller series of, say, a comic book series, you were just like, not for me, put it off to the side.
It's just
like a bad run.
A bad arc.
A bad run, yeah. That's all right. It happens.
Like, is Peter Parker the clone? Yeah. Anyone out there who knows what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about.
So the font of the Luminous sign is that kind of long time ago font.
Oh, interesting.
And the little logo that's underneath Project Luminous is I believe the not the old Republic, but the Republic fighters from Clone Wars logo, and then it says 2020.
Isn't that the symbol of the Wills?
Is that the symbol of the Wills? I think that's the symbol of the Wills. Yeah. But that isn't that on? That is on the Republic Army guys.
Yeah, but that's what they. It's only on the Jedi.
Yeah.
When it's Clone Wars, it's on the shoulder of
it's on the Jedi.
Obi-Wan and Anakin.
Right.
I gotta say, Project Luminous.
The point was you see that in Clone Wars.
Oh yeah,
that's true. You do.
That was my point.
Mike, let's give this to him. I gotta say, Project Luminous, dope ass name.
Yeah.
I really thought that
exciting.
it was. I thought it was a closed off podcast network for a little while that had dropped their price from $7.99 to $3.99.
I mean, we'll be doing speculation for the next few weeks, I'm sure, but 2/24/20 couldn't come soon enough. Whatever this is, I'm excited about it. Like, I'm excited to hear what they're doing.
If it is strictly a video game series, or sorry, just like comic book, video game, novel tie-in, doesn't actually go into films and TV, is that still excite you with the names that they listed? I guess we know some of what they did from what Chris said. Yeah,
I mean, I don't know. I haven't been keeping up with the comic books, so I'm not that familiar with those people's work. But if it is a comic for them to, so the comic books and stuff, the reason I think a lot of people love them, but people like myself have trouble getting into them, is because I don't really know where it starts and stops in terms of, like you said, with comic book runs. It's like, am I dropping in the middle of a comic book run? Are they going to discontinue this line as they have with a few? Yeah. It's an investment of time, and you don't necessarily know what it's going to go. But if they say this is Project Luminous, it's going to be these comic series that are going to lead into this video game that's this novel. It's a fun thing where you're like, okay, instead of it just being it's a Star Wars thing and it's all this big one story, it's focusing it down a little bit so that you can kind of follow this one continuous narrative that is a little more streamlined. So I think that is an exciting thing for them to start, if that's what they do.
Yeah. And also, I mean, I think they're in a position now where they need to start mining content and start building content to build off of. I know there's a large legacy with the books, but I feel like as they were kind of self-describing, this is the end of the Skywalker saga, I think a lot of the source material and stuff involved in that saga is kind of going to be put to rest a little bit. So they need to start a track where they're building lore and mythos around whatever they do next to fill in all the infinite details that are going to need looked at and cared for.
Which is just a really vast undertaking, unlike anything else we've seen in cinema currently, because we all know that in cinema and television, the great series and movies that have taken over culture over the last 10 years have been all based on existing text. So for Marvel, for Game of Thrones. And so to say that we're going to put out, well, this could be doing it in text form and seeing what works and then deciding what you then bubble up to being a film or a series. But I feel like they've kind of done that already with people love Dr. Aphra from the comic book series. They love her. That could be a series on its own. The question to me is, after The Rise of Skywalker, are they willing to be that specific anymore? Are they willing to spend that much time on canon anymore? Is their goal broad? They want to be as broad as possible. Or with Luminous, they're like, we'll be specific here and then see how we can take that and make it somewhat broad for an audience on Disney Plus if it is what we think it's going to be.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with it. I mean, I think there's a lot in Star Wars that we all take for granted as we know this world, but there is just a little bit of this world that we actually do know about, and I think they've kind of realized that they don't have George Lucas's brain to kind of go in and see what the rest of the world looks like. So I do think that they need to make this kind of scape of the rest of all these pieces that they don't have the benefit of one person's vision. So I think they need the mother brain of Star Wars to be built again. And it was the story team at one point, and who knows what's happening to that. Maybe they'll be kind of enveloped into this, or they're going to continue on doing their own thing. But I think something like this needs to coincide with the films and the TV shows to kind of keep things moving in a direction.
It feels like to me Dave Filoni could be that person. He can be the Kevin Feige, even though it wouldn't be about necessarily producing the same way. But he could be the Kevin Feige who is the keeper of this story across so many things. And I take it, and I don't know well enough, but I assume the story group in a lot of ways has probably been laddering up to him, running things to him as it is. So to have him shepherd it, because if you're looking for that Star Wars brain, he certainly has it. Yeah.
Here's the thing, is that the sequel trilogy has obviously had... it's been polarizing, to say the least, for a lot of people. Not for everybody. Most people, I feel like, if you really, boiled it down, most people, overall enjoyed it, right? But, Disney with Rogue One and Solo and stuff like that, they were taking this foray into Star Wars. But they acquired Lucasfilm, and Lucasfilm has, a ton of different things that are valuable, especially around Star Wars. Obviously, there's, Indiana Jones and stuff, but... it's not just making movies. They've made the money back on Lucasfilm, right? They did the sequel trilogy. They made the money back. So, to me, this may be steps that they're taking in the long run to make Lucasfilm again. The way that, in the 90s and the early aughts, when George was in charge, they would do things like this, like multimedia projects. They would try these things out because they knew that they had an audience for it, and also kind of were a little weird and experimental.
Yeah.
And it's possible that they're recognizing that they may have diluted their brand a bit, and that it's time for them to kind of build up the brand of the thing that they acquired, because they knew that there was value to it. So for them to do something like this that, but we don't know yet, but by all accounts and rumors and stuff, is a multimedia project, is kind of this thing of let's get people excited about this aspect of Lucasfilm again also. Not just that we're making new live action TV shows that they've never seen, or that we're bringing back characters that they like. Let's start moving forward. So it's this may be setting up the stage too to get people used to the idea of Johnson's trilogy, if hopefully they do that. That it's we're moving forward now. We wrapped up what they're calling the Skywalker saga, and now, Star Wars is moving forward.
Yeah.
And I hope that's my hope for it. That's, and not just with Project Luminous, but it's, to me, I want to see Star Wars, the original characters are gone. That story's been wrapped up in, it's debatable whether it was a satisfying way or not for people, but let's start making new stories and trying new things. And I hope that this is what that's doing.
I really hope you're right, Ryan. I don't know if the autonomy for Lucasfilm is ever going to be there again after what seems like the meddling of Disney. I can't.
Well, of course, because it's not owned by one person.
Yeah. Well, I just hope this doesn't turn out to be an app where you collect coins and you can buy helmets.
A new subscription service, Project Luminous.
Exactly. Yeah, it's we know we have a bunch of old Star Wars books. Project Luminous lets you check them out at $9.99 a month. With new artwork helmets added by the following artists.
And I want more helmets for my collection, so sure, I'll go ahead and donate the coins. My biggest hope for this is a VHS board game style thing, where you play the board game, but the VHS interacts with you.
Yes.
That's what I want.
Yes. That's all anyone ever wants.
All right, well, I think that covers Project Luminous to this point. We haven't done our usual call-out, but be sure to follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, the Droids Pod on Facebook, Droids Podcast, and, of course, Droids Pod on Twitter and Instagram. YouTube Droids Pod. Check out the playthrough from Ryan, Fallen Order. We're just going to say that one for years. Even if Fallen Order has been out forever, we're going to keep on
and I've been playing it. That game's hard, Ryan, so I'm very impressed that you beat it.
Thank you, my man. I was playing it on the hard difficulty, too. So
Wow. I keep bumping it down.
Not for nothing.
But your
breaking news
playthroughs
just
help.
With Project Luminous brought up.
Yeah.
And possible comic book stuff. So this is spoilers for the newest issue of the Star Wars comic book, the Marvel Star Wars comic book. They recently rebooted that.
Yes.
So they started again. So this is issue number 2. There's been reports that again, spoilers, possibly, the last frame is showing someone catching Luke's lightsaber after it falls in Cloud City. So it's very possible that the comic books are going to explore and answer how the lightsaber came into Maz Kanata's possession, which was one of the biggest floating mysteries that JJ set up and then did nothing with.
Yeah, and also
he really wanted us wondering about it. Then he had the opportunity to answer it and just chose not to.
Yeah.
Which again doesn't really matter to me. We didn't need to spend 10 minutes of a movie figuring this out, but it's exciting that in the comic books that we may find out.
Wow.
We see a cloaked figure. There's a picture of the panel. Cloaked figure, kind of luminescent and blue, so possibly a Force ghost, since we now know that they can catch lightsabers. Catching it and saying, "Follow your destiny." So we don't know who it is. Perhaps in number 3 we'll find out.
Looks like one of Sheev's kids.
So what you're saying is that it was a good story for another time and another medium.
Yes.
There you
Another time, 2020.
I believe it's Lobot. Lobot found his way to the bottom of Cloud City.
Whoa.
Yeah.
And caught it.
go. Low bottom.
I don't know why he's wearing a cloak.
How about that?
Yeah, why? It's probably Luke or something.
I'd be very disappointed if they leave hanging in the Mandalorian whoever the spurred fellow was who came across.
I forgot all about that.
Ming-Na. I thought that was very strange to not pay that off in that season.
Was that not Giancarlo Esposito's character?
We never saw. We never found out. And we never saw him
show
with
his
spurs.
Yeah, we didn't get another cutaway of Spurs. Weird.
Well, one thing that we haven't gone into very deeply, and I think we don't need to talk at length about it, but we mentioned it at the end of last week's pod, Taika Waititi is rumored to be directing a Star Wars film, not just another episode of the series. Obviously, he directed the finale of The Mandalorian. He played IG-11. Great that character came back. What a lovely end to his story at the end of The Mandalorian. I thought it was pretty wonderful and gave me many emotional feelings that I didn't expect the show to draw out of me. So that was really, really fantastic. But what do we think about Taika possibly taking it over? To be honest, from my perspective, I've loved every one of his films. I would love to see a Star Wars movie, though I don't want it to be. I think Thor Ragnarok is funny and memorable in that way.
It's too much.
I don't want it to be. Wars. I don't want it to be too Marvel, I guess.
I would love. I mean, hey, make Solo 2 happen. He would be a great solo director.
Right? Oh, actually, you know what he would do really well? Lando, a Star Wars story.
Oh, there you go. That's it, Mike. You just named it.
That would be great.
And it could be my Rise to Power Lando script. How he becomes the mayor of Bespin.
Oh yeah, that's perfect.
Wow.
Imagine it's just like literally like an election where he works really hard and
it's just
like
very straightforward. And Lobot's like his friend's like, I don't know, Lobot. I don't know if we can do this. And then Lobot's like says something inspirational. He's like, oh, I accidentally shut you off. Because can he control Lobot? What's his deal there? I don't know.
He can control him from his wrist.
I'm surprised we didn't get a Lobot cameo.
Oh yeah, that would have made sense. Because Lobot.
And a reminder, Lobot, not Principal Strickland.
Somehow.
Exactly. That should be. We should say that up front at every podcast. I think it's great. I wonder if he is better suited for doing something with kind of the legacy characters versus some kind of new material. I mean, I'm sure whatever it is would be cool, but I feel like he would have the most fun in that kind of old world.
That's a good call. I feel like he's adapted a lot of things. He adapted The Hunt for the Wilder People. He adapted Jojo Rabbit from a book. Thor Ragnarok obviously adapted as well.
Well,
so that's a good
adapt
point.
some Project Luminous
Give
material.
us Shadows of the Empire. I want Shadows of the Empire.
That would be fun.
Yeah.
I like it. Write in. Let us know what you would like to see Taika Waititi direct.
Would you have concern? I think somebody like Taika, it feels like he has balanced humor and drama really well, but still it feels like most of his movies are more humor-led. And Star Wars has always had that great balance of lore, mythology, and humor. And I guess I just wonder if that tightrope, like when I think of a Taika Waititi project, I think of the beginning of The Mandalorian where the Scout Troopers are punching Baby Yoda. And I guess if he was doing a film, it would be like, okay, here's the Star Wars strict comedy.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, so that beginning of the last episode of The Mandalorian is like fun, but a whole movie of that would be insufferable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For a
Unless
Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
Again,
I mean, I
there's
could
plenty of things where it's like, I thought it worked in Thor Ragnarok because
It did.
the beauty of that was that the stakes were so low with Thor, we just wanted to see something different.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I could see that sounds like probably like a late 90s, mid 2000s Star Wars type show that would have been called like Troopers, and it would have been about stormtroopers.
I think they actually started
Here's what
making
he
that
should
show.
do.
Did they really?
Here's what he should do, and this would be brilliant. Jar Jar, a Star Wars story.
Wow. There you go.
Let him take it back. Take it back for Jar Jar.
It would have been awesome if it was just a story about him. It would be awesome if it's just about him like being a street performer and like kind of a
Yeah.
No,
like I'm talking like a $30 million Jar Jar movie.
Yeah,
where it's just,
he rises to the top. He's like, I saved a planet before, and now I'm a street performer, and then he has to then he becomes a sensation. It'd be a fun movie.
Until he then dies penniless and alone on the streets, like JJ wrote in the book.
Oh God. JJ.
Did JJ like do an interview where he said, "This is what I thought would happen to the character"? That should have been our first red flag. That man.
Yeah.
Oof.
It was a different time. Yeah. He's like, I think Jar Jar's bones are in that desert or something.
Yeah, I think you're right, Chris.
Yeah. Well, we should have known.
Guys,
But they're not. Yeah.
Wait, sorry, go on. Didn't mean to interrupt. Go.
That's all I had. That's all I had. I was happy for the interruption.
I was going to say we're still going to hold and talk with Sam about The Mandalorian in full. But one of the things I'm thinking of just talking about what Taika Waititi could do, what would be next, I really enjoyed The Mandalorian. I thought it was a great season. I don't know that I'm giving enough credit for how enjoyable it was. But when I look back and think back on it, I'm not moved in any way by it, and most of Star Wars, maybe with some exceptions, has moved me in a lot of ways, with the depictions of the Force and talking about, all of our responsibilities to each other and that kind of philosophy, that I hope the Obi-Wan series has that. And I hope future Star Wars has that. And after The Rise of Skywalker, I'm worried that we're not going to get as much of that.
Yeah, I think there's kind of that just the idea of, so Star Wars has always had this kind of like slow-paced element inside of it, and I felt a lot of that was taken away out of The Rise of Skywalker in lieu of just like action and like not really letting you like meddle in something. And luckily The Mandalorian had that to a certain degree, but it was also like episodic television, so there was always like there's a pretty quick ending just by the nature of a TV show that it ended, and so then you got it in snippets. So yeah, no, I hope they carry that essence through the new series, and I think if anything, these were developed kind of in this legacy period, so hopefully they'll have some of that influence. But I guess they're rewriting Obi-Wan, so who knows what new spin they'll have on them.
I'm making an announcement here.
Yes.
I'm now going to be reading the new Star Wars comic book series and reporting on it every month.
Yes.
Woo! All right.
Woo! I love it. There you go. Breaking news. You heard it here first. That's
segment.
The Star Wars announcement that you needed to hear.
News segment on the pod. All right.
That's right.
Before we wrap this up, news came out that Adam Driver recorded some of the dialogue for The Rise of Skywalker when they needed to cover what he said when he was in the mask in his closet in New York City.
That's
with
hilarious.
Matthew Wood, who was doing the ADR for Star Wars and Lucasfilm, brought his mobile ADR kit, and he quickly recorded things in his closet before going on Seth Meyers, and JJ was monitoring it live. Interesting. I mean, it just kind of, again, piques the interest of, please, someone write the oral history of making this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're filming scenes in closets.
Filming scenes in closet.
Most of all of the Rey's green screen was just done in her apartment. Amazing. Well, it kind of, like you said, Mike, it makes you feel better that hey, we record this podcast in a closet, and Star Wars is made in a closet. So hey,
If the movie was better, that would seem endearingly lo-fi.
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
But because it wasn't, it just seems like it was a mess.
there's a shot in Cloverfield when in that movie's not like super high fidelity on purpose, but they shot one of the reference photos like on an iPhone and then CG'd around that. But it was like the first iPhone.
Really? Didn't Cloverfield come
Yeah.
out in like 2005?
No, it was 2008.
2008.
Really?
1/18/20
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
That was
And it
was
was
the end of the-
JJ is a big Apple guy, and he had his iPhone on set, and he like took the picture, and then gave it to the effects guy, and they built the scene out of the picture from the iPhone.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so it happens. Everyone can make movies if you got a phone, and $1 million.
Well, we're 1/1000th of the way there.
We're getting there.
That's right.
If you want to donate to the Droids Movie Fund, put all the money you have in an envelope.
What movie would the Droids make, Chris?
The Salacious Crumb.
Okay, yeah,
our
we're still
Salacious
doing that.
Crumb
Great,
script.
great,
Yeah.
perfect.
Yep.
We got to do that table read like we planned.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
we
we'll
were
get there.
saving it for the in-between years, but here we
Yeah,
are.
exactly. We'll put it on our Patreon, babies.
Well, I think that will do it for this edition of the Droids You're Looking For, a Star Wars podcast. Be sure to join us again next week when the Cassian Andor series likely will have some breaking news about it. I can't imagine we're not going to hear about that sometime in the next few weeks.
Yeah. Yeah. It's canceled. Just kidding.
Tony Gilroy wants to let you know that he created Star Wars, actually.
Kind of like Jon Favreau created at the end of The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
God.
Well, that will do it for this week's edition of the Droids You're Looking For, a Star Wars podcast.
What they throw? Annie Babu.
Boring conversation anyway.
You boys want to go to Galaxy's medieval times?
If you play this episode in reverse, it says Sam's dead.